Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome. Fremde, étranger, stranger. Name that musical. Hello and welcome to another video on my channel. How are we all doing this week? I've had a good week so far. Uni is killing me slowly, but other than that, everything's fine. This week I thought I would do something cultural. A lot of people have subscribed to my channel now, which is lovely, and they're from all over the world, and somebody asked if I would do a video on growing up in South London, and I thought, yeah, you know what, that's quite a good idea, because South London has got quite a reputation, and I wanted to lay some kind of stereotypes to rest and confirm what I think is true and what I don't think is true. Obviously, if you are from London or South London or this area and you live near me and you know me in person, these are just my opinions. Like, you may have had a completely different experience growing up in South London, but this is mine, my generation, okay, just my thoughts. So the first thing I thought of is nobody ever wants to claim us. Where I'm from, Croydon, anyone in England probably will have heard of Croydon. If you haven't, maybe don't look it up. So if you look at it on a map, you have London, you have like the River Thames, Greenwich over here, like West London, East London, North London, South London. So you, as it goes down, you have like Brixton, Morden, Thornton Heath, Croydon. And then you have the M25 going around it. Some people think that London doesn't extend further than the south of the river. That's kind of a running joke in London, is that London, you're not London if you're south of the river. We are very south of the river. So Londoners often say, no, Croydon isn't in London. You're not from London. Surrey, which is also where I am from, it kind of crosses over. The south of London is in Surrey. Surrey also say, no, Croydon is definitely not part of Surrey. So nobody ever wants to claim us. Where are we from? What are we? Who are we? I personally like to say I am from London, because if you say you're from Surrey, either people, if they're foreign, won't really know where that is, and if they do, they think Surrey is a very, very posh area, which it is. It's very expensive in some areas, and it's nice. It's very nice, it's very green. Croydon is the opposite of that. Central Croydon is very built up, it's very 60s, very industrial, very grey. Skyscrapers, not even skyscrapers, that makes it sound like it's a really cool city. Old stucco buildings, like grey cement concrete buildings from the 60s mainly. It's not a pretty area. But you know what? I love it. It's where I was born, it's where I was raised. It's great. So some people class London as zones 1 to 6, which is the travel zones for those of you who don't live in London or don't know about English travel in general. So zones 1 is like central London. I'll pop a tube/train map up so you can see all of the different zones. And Croydon is in zone 5. So technically, zones 1 to 6, we're in there. That's London. London. Other people class London as inside the M25. Croydon is very much inside the M25. Where I live personally, which is kind of south of Croydon, is also in the M25. And I live in zone 6 of zones 1 to 6. So, you know what? I think we're Londoners, and I'm proud as a result to be a Londoner. So as a result of living in zones 1 to 6, the transport links are pretty great, other than Southern Rail being an absolute arse of a rail company, which I spoke about in a previous video. The actual trains themselves, when they arrive, are pretty good. Like, we're about 30 minutes from London, like central London Victoria, London Bridge, London Blackfriars, or you're about 40 minutes the other way to Brighton, which is lovely, nice day at the seaside. We're 20 minutes from Gatwick by car. So it's just such a good area to live in, because you can get to so many different places so quickly, and for not that extortionate a price. Like, don't get me wrong, London prices are very expensive compared to the rest of the country. But you can get where you need to go, and that's the main thing. So when I was a child, it cost £2 a day for a rail ticket, travel card, that you could use to go anywhere in zones 1 to 6. So you could start where you lived, travel all into central London, go to North London, go to Camden, which I used to love doing as a teenager, explore all the markets, eat all the street food, go to Oxford Circus, Piccadilly Circus, go to the West End and see a show, Harrods, Hamleys, all for £2 up until you were 16. That's a really good deal. Like, it's changed now. Now it costs like £12 at least a day for a travel card, but at the time it was bloody brilliant growing up where I live, because you could just pop on a train with all your friends when you were like 15, 16 and go to London for the day, and it would be great. We also got Oyster cards, which in London you will know if you know what they are. If not, they're cards that you can use on the buses and now on the trains and trams and everything like that. You had your Oyster card free until you were 18 years old, so you get free transport to school if you lived within the London area, which I did, and you could get buses into Red Hill or to Croydon centre, town centre, or anywhere in the surrounding area that had a bus route, which was great. So all my friends used to live more in central Croydon than I did. Hop on a bus for free to see your pals. It was great. So this is quite a childhood memory. When I was going to school, I don't know about other countries, but you always used to have the bad man on the back of the bus, where they would all sit at the back and they'd all sit there like, yeah, like they're just, you know, the kind of scary kids. Chavs essentially is what we used to call them, but you know, and they used to have food fights with us. They used to literally buy food from Tesco, which is a big supermarket here, and like chunks of chocolate, and just use them to throw at you. And it was so mean. I remember once my friend Lauren got hit in the eye with a piece of chocolate. She hasn't lived it down. She still thinks about it to this day. We also used to get elastic bands, so I can show you with one of these. So you'd get it between that finger, and you'd get a little piece of paper and fold it round, and you'd pull it back and do that, and it would fly. And people used to do that all the time. Like, it used to go in people's eyes, people used to get injured. Like, it was great fun, you know. It was part of growing up, I guess, but that is a massive memory, is sitting on the top deck of a bus and just being complete and utter terrors, really, as we were growing up, from the ages of kind of 11 to 16, and then after that, like, people started to drive and like would make their own way to school and stuff. But yeah, that's good memories. I'm 23. When we kind of 11, 12, 13 didn't have iPhones and touchscreen technology. We still had flip phones and like the old Nokias and stuff, and we used to Bluetooth songs across to each other and like holding them together because that would make it go faster. I don't know if it ever did, but yeah, we would always send each other songs, and people would always have music playing normally at the back of the bus, and it would be like really scary, like rap, and you'd be there like, hello, I'm 11 years old. Another good memory about growing up in London, in South London, in the UK in general, is Blockbusters, which was an old video store. Remember those? Remember video stores before the age of the internet and DVDs and everything? Good times. It was literally like an evening out. Like, your parents would be like, right, we're going to Blockbusters tonight, and your whole family would be like, yay! Me and my brothers would be like, woo! So we'd all pile into the car, get down to Blockbusters, spend like an hour all going around, choosing like videotapes, the old-fashioned videos, and you'd pay, and you'd go home, and you'd have bought a load of snacks ready in bowls, and you'd all be sitting there like, and you'd, while watching the film, and it was great. I loved that part of my childhood. Obviously that's not really dedicated to South London as such, that's just more growing up in the UK, I guess, but yeah. And then the next day whenever it was due back, you'd take it back and you'd put it through a little slot. It was like a kind of letterbox, and you'd pop it in, and it's just such a clear memory in my head doing that, just thinking it was such a treat to get out a video. It was great. So there's lots to do in South London. For instance, theme parks, Legoland. I used to go to a lot as a child. That's only in Windsor, which is probably about an hour and a half away. Not far. Chessington, which is in Chessington, which is really not that far. It's probably about 40 minutes away. My best friend Connor, from Covers with Connor, used to work at Chessington World of Adventures. So these are all theme parks with big massive rides and zoos and just so much stuff. It was so great. And then Thorpe Park, which is probably the best of the three for adults, is, again, I think it's in Slough or Staines. It's near Staines anyway, which is again only about an hour and a half away. So you had all of these things really close, and I remember you used to get vouchers from Tesco. If you spent enough money with Tesco on your shopping, your weekly shop, you'd then get free vouchers to use in the various theme parks. It was great. I used to go there all the time, and people used to have parties there. And yeah, fun memories. So we have some famous people who are from in and around the Croydon area. Kate Moss, the famous model, went to Riddlesdown High School, which was like my high school's rival. So yeah, and everyone I meet from Riddlesdown, I know a lot of people from Riddlesdown School because they were our rivals. They're our rivals. One of the first things they say is, Kate Moss went to my school. And you're like, yes, I know that. Bill Nighy, the famous actor, he's been in Love Actually, he's been in all the Pirates of the Caribbean. He's the one with the, do you fear death, Jack Sparrow? That one. He went to John Fisher, which is in Purley, which is very close. It's really not that far. Tom Felton, who played Draco Malfoy in the Harry Potter series, lived and was born in Epsom, which is about 5-10 minutes away from where I work. And Stormzy, the famous grime artist who sings like, you're getting way too big for your boots. You're never too big for the boot. I got the big size 12s on my feet. That was my really, really poor attempt at rapping there. Wow, that was poor. He is from Thornton Heath, I think. He's definitely he's from like northern Croydon, so I'm from South Croydon, but he's really famous at the moment. Like, he's done stuff with Ed Sheeran, I think they're really good friends and stuff. So again, little claim to fame for Croydon for having famous people from there. So Croydon Town Centre itself. People from London and people from England, as you probably know, it has a terrible reputation. And it's kind of deserved in a way. Okay, really sorry if the lighting has changed or something is dramatically different. My camera just ran out of battery, so I had to sit there and charge it for a little while. Anyway, back to where I was. So yeah, it kind of deserves its reputation in a way. For instance, my mum would not let me go shopping there. You know, when you're kind of 12, 13, being a girl, you want to go shopping with all your pals and get some new bits and, you know, start experimenting with makeup and all that jazz. My mum said, Hannah, you are never going to Croydon until you have your own job. And in England, you can't get a job apart from like a paper round until you are 16. So I was like the only one of my friends who was not allowed to go into Croydon, which was really sad, but I totally get it. Like, yeah, it's not the nicest of places. For instance, America, the States, they're kind of known for their gun violence and they have kind of like quite a big gun problem. In the UK, in South London, the main source of violence is stabbing, and a lot of people do get stabbed in and around the Croydon area every year. So there's a lot of kind of gang violence and stuff, but that's only really in the nights and more in northern Croydon, like Croydon Town Centre. You see weird stuff going down, the police are always there, but I've never seen anything really, really bad happening. Like, I've never seen a murder or a death or, you know, I've never seen a stabbing personally, but it does have that reputation and it is known for that in the London area, so I can see why my mum didn't want me to go there. It's actually fine though, like, you're not going to get stabbed, just don't make eye contact with people, which is funny because in my last video I was saying, oh, everyone in England smiles at each other. Like, you can try and smile at people, you're more likely not to get stabbed if you smile at people. It's only if you stare at someone and they catch you looking weird. Like, I remember being on my way home from Croydon once and I looked up at a girl and she looked like a normal girl, my age, and I didn't give her a dirty look or anything. I was just kind of looking at her and she was like, what are you staring at? And she literally came up to me and she was just like, what are you staring at? And I was like, oh, nothing, what, oh. And obviously I was so young, so I was like, no, I'm not looking at anything, I promise. And she was just like, yeah, you better not be. And she just walked off and, like, I think she pushed me as well. And I was like 13, 14. That wasn't actually in central Croydon, now I come to think of it. That was a little bit out because, again, I wasn't allowed to go to Croydon, so. Which leads me on to my next point. There are chavs everywhere in South Croydon, everywhere. You cannot move for chavs, and they're okay. Like, I know some chavs personally, like I've had my dealings with them in the past, and they're nice people as long as you're on the right side of them. As soon as you're not, that's when the problems start. You know, like brav, like lots of idiot brav, yeah, like yeah, all like that. Just, it's completely different language, and a lot of it I don't even understand anymore. Sick. Another good part of Croydon and growing up in near Croydon is Reggae Alley. There's a little alleyway in the middle of Croydon Town Centre and they just blast out reggae music. It normally smells like weed around there, but what can you do? It's really fun. And then there's the Wizard Man, who also goes to Sutton quite a lot, and he's literally dressed head to toe as a wizard. He's got like a really long beard and he just walks around. That's just what he does. He doesn't seem to have a job. He doesn't beg, to my knowledge. He's just a wizard man. So we have Surrey Street Market, which was great because it's like a proper old-fashioned market. I think it's been there for like a couple of 100 years, and it's literally like the old-fashioned, like, get your fish, 2 for a pound, 2 for a pound, £2 a fish, £5. I love that. the old Market Street callers, they're great. We also have this thing called Box Park now, like this is quite recent in the last couple of years, but it's this massive great building right by East Croydon train station, which means it's so easy to get to from public transport, and it has every type of cuisine you could ever want. Quite expensive, but it's worth it. And they have these massive long tables, like it kind of reminds me of like the Great Hall in Hogwarts, because they have all these long tables where you can just sit down with all your friends and you can meet up with people, and it's just really nice. I really like Box Park. It's a good addition to Croydon. So the nightlife, obviously this isn't my childhood. This is, well, it's still growing up because now I am a mature adult. When I was 18, I obviously started to go out drinking and clubbing because that's what you did. The clubs in Croydon were so bad, but so good. And they still are so bad, but so good. My personal favourite is Reflex, which is a chain of clubs, actually, in the UK. So people from the UK, you will have probably heard of Reflex. And it's like a really old-fashioned music, e.g. cheesy 80s, cheesy 90s, cheesy noughties. And there's just like loads of lights and like light-up floors. And there's a pole in the middle of the one in Croydon, which is great, because who doesn't love a pole dance when they're drunk? This guy certainly does. Then you also had Tiger, which was like right next door, which was across a couple of floors. And it was really good, in a way. Thing is, once you were 18, it seemed really cool, but as soon as you got to the age of like 20, 21, you then realised that everyone in that club was underage. Like they'd all either got fake IDs or borrowed their brothers and sisters' IDs, which used to happen all the time, and they used to really annoy me because I've got two younger brothers. A, they're younger, and B, they're brothers. So I could never ever borrow anyone's ID. Yeah, it was just full of underage people, and it's just not classy. I think they did a test once, like a third of all glasses, like drinking glasses they found, had traces of drugs in them. So either people have been doing drugs constantly or spiking them. And I actually got spiked one night, and I've never been back to Tiger since. In fact, it closed down because, yeah, it had such a bad kind of reputation to it. And I can't drink Malibu anymore, e.g. the rum, the coconut rum, makes my stomach turn just thinking about it, because I drank just two glasses. They weren't even doubles, they were single shots, and I was off my face. And I don't get drunk that easily. Like, I'm a bit of a lightweight because I'm like this big, but to literally feel like I was going to throw up and die, it was awful. So I just went to the toilet, and unfortunately I was with loads of my friends and I didn't even tell them I was going, because all of a sudden I was like, I feel horrific. So I went to the toilet, and like I tried to be sick and I couldn't, it just wouldn't come up. So in the end I just slept in that cubicle for 3 hours. And this was only at like 9, 10 o'clock at night, so it's not like it was the end of the night and I was really drunk and I got to that stage. I had definitely been spiked, because that's what spiking does to you. Like, certain drugs do different things, but most of the time they knock you out. And obviously people can then take you and do very bad things. So I was quite lucky in a way that I managed to get myself to a secure location of a toilet. So yeah, the nightlife in Croydon can be a bit dodgy. A little bit. But a good thing about after the nightlife in Croydon, if you've had a good night and you haven't died like I did, there are chicken shops everywhere. In South London in general, you cannot move for chicken shops. You can always see one. So after you'd stumble out the club really, really drunk and you'd be like, I want chips, I want something hot, you'd then go to the chicken shop and have a really, really nice, healthy old fried meal of chicken or kebab or just chips, and it was so good. So something a little bit better than those creepy stories. There is so much historical stuff to do in and around South Croydon. So not only can you get into London and obviously see like the Cabinet War Rooms and Buckingham Palace, Imperial War Museum, you can also go to various castles, because, you know, we English are famous for our castles. So near me we have Hiiiiiiii Castle, which is my absolute favourite. It's just so beautiful. And another fun memory of when I was growing up was going to Hiiiiiiii Castle with my cousins, because they live closer to Hiiiiiiii than I do, when we were really young, and they had a water maze. So you'd run through, it was like a normal maze, but it had like bridges, and you'd step across the bridges, and some of the bridges had like a mechanism underneath where once you put your weight on it, it would squirt water up. So obviously you'd run across the bridge and then it would squirt you, and it was so much fun. Hiiiiiiii is amazing, and that water maze is still there, so if anyone is in the South London area, You have to check that out. Hampton Court, which is obviously famous from Henry VIII's time. So is Hever Castle. Anne Boleyn, his second wife, her family was from there. So both Tudor kind of historical places. And then Windsor Castle as well, which is what our royal family is named after. So that's pretty cool. That's in Windsor. That's not too far. And that's about all I could come up with. So if you're from South London or Southern England or just the UK in general, let me know if you think I've missed anything out about growing up in South London. I've tried to include the good and the bad. Obviously there were some pretty bad stories in there which make South London sound like an absolute shithole. And it's not. Like, I don't live in central Croydon. I live south of Croydon. So as I was saying, it's in between kind of the nice countryside. Like Box Hill is not too far. Farthing Downs is beautiful. Crystal Palace Park has all these amazing dinosaurs. That's another fun memory from childhood, going and looking at all the dinosaurs and thinking they were massive and amazing. They were really cool. But then you're also close enough to London and close enough to Croydon if you need to go in for some shopping or anything major, because Croydon does have most things that you'd need to buy. So yeah, I tried to include some good and some bad and some ugly. And you got a whole bundle there. And I hope this was quite an informative video for those who wanted to know what it was like to have grown up in South London. I'll try and think of some more kind of childhood memories of growing up from round here. This was kind of a mixture of things from my childhood, from my early teens and from my late teens as well. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Croydon and South London may have a dodgy reputation, but as I said, I missed the South London slang while I was away, and it's nice. Like, it's quite familiar to me. It's a familiar sound, so it's cool. I enjoy it. Obviously I can't speak any of it because I'm not cool. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hope everybody has a good week to come, and I am proud to be a South Londoner. Thank you and goodbye.